What's up guys, welcome to Skipper Surf Review. I'm Yuri Tsudenov and today I've been doing a proper ding repair with Nigel from Station RBNY Surf Shop. He's been doing ding repairs for years and I really trust him. My board, which is Ryan Loveless FM Surfboard, it's one of my favorites. What happened is I was just going down the line and someone was just standing on the inside, didn't want to move anywhere, and I ended up dinging my board pretty bad. So since then I've been doing some quick ding repairs using SunCure. Unfortunately it didn't help, everything was just lifting up, coming off, and I decided to do it properly. Hope you enjoyed this episode and let's get started.
Alright guys, so we're going to see what we got here today. Looks like a pretty bad ding, honestly.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'll tell you, the way that I approach these types of dings, there's basically two ways I approach it. So on boards that are nice like this, because this is a pretty beautiful board, I'll try to not do lots of cutouts and fills, just because I want to preserve it. Guys that are much better ding repair guys than me can cut it out and color match it perfectly. That's not necessarily my strength. My strength is making it watertight, look good, and I'll get the color as close as I can. So what I'm going to try to do to preserve this particular one is, instead of actually cutting out the whole spot, the way it's cracked, I can lift it. I'll create like a little space, lift it a little bit. We're going to fill under it, and then we're going to sand it smooth, and then we're going to put a piece of cloth on top of it. You're going to need to cloth this. It's too deep of one that you can do with just SunCure, because it's going to end up popping out.
That's what I use. I tried to put a SunCure in the first place,
Right.
And then I started to see, like, after one session it started to come
Lift
off,
up and stuff,
lift
yeah.
up, yeah.
Yeah, it just, because all of the loose area, you always have to kind of get rid of this area. So if you're going to do SunCure, you really should probably take it out. So we're going to do this. There's two ways of doing it, but we're going to do it the way to preserve the look, where you'll just see it kind of like the line of the crack. So let me grab a couple of tools I'm going to need, and then we will go from there. I'm going to start with just a 40 grit sandpaper, because I need to get this whole area really rough first. You can't really work on a smooth surface, especially when you start putting the resin and stuff in there. If it's a smooth surface, you can flick it back out, as you can see I can do with most of what you had on here before. But we're gonna rough up the area with a really heavy grit sandpaper. It's like a thick grain. And we'll get it back to looking cool, so I'm not too worried about it. So all I'm really doing is just getting it pretty rough. And I'm gonna try to do a lot of this by hand. I do have a machine that I would probably take to this and kind of kick it off first, but we're not gonna do that now. And I'm gonna anticipate putting a piece of cloth on this that's a certain size. So I'm gonna also go a little bit bigger than I need to, because this gives the cloth something to hold on to, right? So when we do that, just gonna brush all that off. There we go. I'm going to take my tool, box cutter, and I'm going to just kind of get rid of all of the loose stuff just along the crack. There you go, see that? Because this was pushed into the board a little, and because I'm not gonna cut it out, which in a perfect world is what you probably should do with this thing, but we're doing kind of a quick, I wanna get back in the water and I don't wanna take too much time. There we go. So if you look, now it's not that it's level, but it's more lifted than it was before. And really under here, this is just all the foam. So I can tell this board is PU. So we're gonna go with that. And I'm just gonna bend this back a little bit, just because I want it to be as close to level as possible. I'm trying to do it without breaking it, because I wanna save it. There you go. And like I said, in a perfect world, I would have just kind of cut this out, but we're gonna try and save it a little bit so it's not so.
So if you cut it out straight, that will. What's the advantage of that? It's just like easier, like to.
Yeah, it's probably easier, because here's the thing: is that I'm gonna fill it, but if I'm not careful, there could be an air pocket in there. This is just a way that you can do it quickly to keep the look going. Again, I can do it and I can add some color in here that would be, if you don't care, I can add a different color or a color as close to this as possible. I just think that I can make it so it looks kind of similar. So we'll try.
Should we do like this a second?
We can do a circle. If you're okay with circles, then yeah. So if you're okay with not having to be the same color, then let's just do a clean little cutout. and then we'll just pour it with that.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay, here we go.
to make it like
We'll go purple.
kind of finish.
Yeah,
Because this
sounds
has
good.
some circles here, and then we have a
Single more.
loveless like log
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
we're
So then
gonna
we'll do
make
a circle there, perfect.
Own circle.
There we go. So in that case, I'm just gonna cut back to where it adheres to the board. Since that's the decision we made, I'm gonna cut it back with kind of a dull blade here to where it cuts back to the board. So also another thing to note is that the way I'm cutting it is not down. I'm cutting it at an angle like this because I want, when I pour my resin, for it to kind of like interact with each other, like to couple it. So when I do it, I just pull it back like that. And because I sanded it, it loosened up all the areas anyway. So this is actually making it pretty easy. Voila. So see that? And then there's like a lot of crud in here. So this is the proper way to do it, right? Because now I could take all the stuff out of here.
How would you know like if there's a lot of water? It would be different color of the foam, and you need to dry
If there
out
was water?
I mean, sometimes I saw someone would do repair. They would put extra foam in there. I guess cut out everything and put the new foam.
Yeah.
Does it?
You can do that. This isn't deep enough for it to warrant that. But if this were like very deep, I would probably like route out a nicer area, put a block of foam in there, sand it, and you can do that with that. But again, I hate compromising boards just for the sake of compromising boards. This is not that big a deal. We can fix this super easy in this format, and we'll go from there.
All right, sweet. So just to recap, initial plan was to lift up that piece of
the
fiberglass, and then put the resin over,
Right.
and then glass it.
To keep it aesthetically,
yeah.
nice.
Then we changed our plan, and we decided to
Cut it out
completely.
Right.
And the reason why to just be more creative.
This is actually the way you should have done it, like that we should have done it, but because we were trying to keep the look, but since you didn't care and we were going to drop a different color or something in there, we're just going to decide to do it the right way, and we'll just put the color in there.
I think it's just like if you want to keep it cleaner. To not because this one was already like cracked, and stuff like that.
Okay.
So to make it cleaner, you would want to cut it out. But since this board has some color options, has a lot of cool graphics and some circles, so we decided to add something from us. So
So what we'll do is maybe we'll mix it, and we'll probably just mix it and drop some red in there, you know, and make it red. I can get this color, but if we're gonna go a different color, we're gonna mix the Q-cell.
Yeah, this board really has many colors.
So let's do that. So I'll get that set up, and I'll kind of show you what it is. This is where the fun part begins.
Awesome.
Before we do that, let's just tape it off, and I'm just taping it close to where it is.
Oh, like it will keep the.
Just keep the resin in, yeah. And it just gives us like a border to work with.
It's literally like a surgery.
This is me being like, when I do boards, I'm very like, I feel like surfboards are people's babies.
Oh yeah.
And although I don't have like all the right equipment to make it like a super crazy professional repair, I would like to think that I do a damn good job. So I'm gonna show you what I'm using to do this. I actually have a mix already done. So I'm basically using Q-cell filler, which you can buy from like your local. This is what can save you a little bit from having to fill it with foam. And then we're gonna use laminating resin. Honestly, you can use sanding resin as well. Laminating resin, just because I have it, I'll use it. It's a tackier resin, so it accepts sanding resin. It gets like it just sticks to stuff better. So,
and then in terms of foam, this one is PU. If this board was in EPS, what resin would you use? The same one?
No. So that's a big no. Only use epoxy resin on epoxy boards. You can actually use epoxy resin on PU boards, but you cannot use polyester resin on EPS boards. It's gonna just eat them out, and I've had horror stories. I don't care if you put like a drop of it, that drop will turn into like a quarter-size hole, then like a dollar bill size hole. It just eats it away. So epoxy for epoxy, or in a pinch, can also be used on PU. You can never use polyurethane or polyester resin on an epoxy board. It's bad business. So be very aware of it, know what it is. The way you can kind of tell the difference too is that poly foam, it's just a little bit tighter. you know, EPS foam looks more aerated. It looks a little bit more loose as a foam. So is you want to mix pour a little bit of the laminating resin in here. I'll hold it for you. So shake it up there.
I saw you doing that, so I know what I'm doing.
No, just to mix it up. And then just pour, you know, like you want to pour in ratio to the size of your ding. So you could pour a little bit more is fine because I could always reuse it. Right, stop. Yep, that's good. All right. So I will say that I am using SunCure version of polyester because I need to do dings quickly. So this allows me to, I can still use the catalyst to make it go off, but when I'm doing topical dings or surface things, I can do it much faster because I can put the cloth on, do it in, UV it, and it's good to go. So I use this pretty much exclusively, even if it's a deep or a ding like this, but we're gonna use catalyst on this as well to make sure it cures all the way through properly.
And then how about this, like kits that you can buy at these surf shops, and usually there's like a ding repair kit for polyester.
We will show you that
kits
one.
like help? Do those kits help, or can you use some of those if you don't have this big jug of resin?
Yeah. So what you're referring to is the ding-all kit, and this is the polyester. So if you're fixing this board, you'd probably buy this kit. And the reason that you'll buy this kit as opposed to just the SunCure version is because this has cloth in it. So if you open this up, this pretty much has everything that you need, right? It has this, which is a small version of what you just poured, but this one only works with the catalyst. So that's why you have the drops here, right? And then there's a cloth, which we're gonna use on this board. Anyway, it comes with the cloth, and it actually comes with a piece of sanding paper as well. And the bottle shows you all the instructions of how many drops to ratio on you need. The only thing that's missing from here, which we're using, is Q-Cell, which you're gonna add, and you can buy that separately from the surf shop as well. And you should, because this is a slightly deeper ding, use Q-Cell because we're not gonna inlay another piece of foam.
So for the smaller dings, you don't need the Q-Cell.
You don't. Well,
What does Q-Cell give you?
So basically, if you imagine that this ding is deep, right, which it is, in a perfect world, we would put a piece of foam in there, sand it to size, cover the whole thing, and that's great, right? Most of the times, we're not, most people don't have an extra piece of like foam laying around that they're gonna use. So we're doing it as if you're literally on a surf trip or you just happen to need to fix your board based with just the tools that you have. So what Q-Cell does is that it aerates the mixture so that if you just do it without adding Q-Cell, it's like ice. It's just going to be a heavy piece. This reduces the weight because you use less material, and it makes it kind of foamy. So you'll see what I mean. It almost has like, it's a little bit porous. So we can fill it, and it's much lighter than if I were to like mix this and pour it in. It would just be like one hard block.
Yeah, you don't want to add extra weight, even if it's a few grams. It might affect your turnability.
Yes. So now we have to make the Q-Cell mixture, which is going to aerate the resin and make it just much softer. And your consistency you want to get here is kind of like peanut butter, because you're going to fill this in. So there's a spoon in there, and it's a big chunk. Like drop that, drop more. You're going to need like 5 of these for
5.
Yeah, probably just because of. Let's stop here for a second, and then let's stir it and see. Stir it. So you want to get it to a consistency where it's like, so this is like a little bit runny. So
still runny.
Yeah. So keep stirring. I'll add some more. There we go.
And I assume you're supposed to do that indoors, right? Because you don't need the sun. Once you outside doing that, it's
if you're using the one that we spoke about that you buy from the store, you can do it outside. This one, because we are using a sun-activated one, we're gonna do it inside and then go outside. You can buy either one. They actually make a sun-activated version that you can buy. So lift it up and let's see what it look like. That's perfect. You see that? Great consistency. There we go. So this is going to be tacky. It's going to put it in there. Cool. So what we'll do now, in most cases, if it's a white board, you put that in. It's good to go. What we'll do now is, because we're going to have fun with it and add color, we're going to drop a little bit of red pigment. And this stuff goes a long way. I'm going to not do this properly, but this stuff goes a long way. This will add color. Because it's white, it'll change it to... But we're literally going to do like this smallest drop here, which is going to be more than this is needed.
So are there like different colors of this thing?
Yes. Okay. There's definitely different colors. And I am not, there we go. So stir that in, and then you'll see it'll start to change color in there. Cool. And if I were to put it in the sun now, it would kick. We're gonna add some catalyst because I need it to kick all the way through. Meaning, if I just do the sun, especially because there's color in it, the top part will harden and the bottom won't harden as well.
So that's why you need the catalyst.
That's why I need the catalyst. When it's deep. When it's not deep, you don't need it. So because of that. Now, the way that catalyst is, there's definitely a drop to resin ratio that works to make it kick faster or slower. I listen to it, but the more you put, the faster it kicks. So again, we're gonna put a bunch because it's a limited show and see if we can get it kicking and good to go. You'll see shortly why I like using sun to do this type of stuff and kick it, because we can get it to set by literally putting it in the sun or putting a UV light on it, where we can start working on it, you know, as we're in a rush. So all this again is for like the guy who's trying to rush out of here. So just make sure you mix it really well. All the color is good, right? Awesome. And then we're gonna drop a couple drops in there. Or squirt a few. Now keep mixing that, and that's you got to mix it in really, really well. And because I put in so much, it's gonna kick much faster. So we're going to, once you have a good mix.
A lot of chemistry happening.
Yeah, it's really simple. It just sounds.
Yeah, it looks so simple.
Yeah,
I mean, now I'm doing that. Because before,
like,
if you ask someone doing that,
they
will say, you gotta cut it out, and you gotta use this, terms. When I was watching videos and ask someone who does repairs, they would say this, kind of fancy words like catalyst and you use Q cells and all that stuff. You start to think, oh my God, it's so complicated, too much going on. Now I'm seeing that, it's pretty simple. It's just like making sandwich at home.
It's
peanut butter and jelly.
It's all about your prep. Because you can do all this. If this isn't prepped properly, it's going to be very difficult for it to hold. Because the goal is we want to do it so that it holds, right? All right, so now I think you mix it enough. Just carefully pour it in. And you're going to fill it to, well, I use the, you got it? I use the fork, so I just drop it in there, right? And I'm going to push it all the way to the bottom like this, only because, again, there's like a little deep of a hole here. So we do that. Then we just put a little bit more. And the goal is you can overfill it. You don't have to put it you don't have to.
Don't be greedy.
Yes, because you're gonna sand it off. The more you overfill, the more you'll sand. That's understood, right? And we use way too much here. And since we use a catalyst, this is gonna go to waste, which is, it's too bad, but we're just kind of showing what to do.
If y'all go home, grab another bowl, ding it, and we'll reuse it.
It'll probably it'll probably go off by then. But that's it, right? So we got, actually, if I had a pink board, I could reuse this. Normally I use smaller batches and stuff like that, but this gives you an idea of what it is, but it says, so the one thing that happens is that you get a lot of
bubbles,
a lot of fish eyes, which happen. There's different ways of dealing with them. You could kind of sand around and do this, or a little trick is if you have like a lighter, you can just put a little bit of like heat on it and it makes them dissolve.
Wow.
So another good trick if you're ever doing this with the sun version is that you would create two versions of this, one that you catalyst and one that you don't. The reason is when you sand this, if you happen to get a fisheye, you can go back and use the one that you haven't catalyst because the color consistency will be the same. So that's like it's a pretty rookie mistake that people tend to do, is that they'll mix it and then have to go, I need to do something because there's a hole like that might develop. And then you're like, I need to redo it and the color is different. So a simple trick is make two batches. So pour this in one, pour the other, catalyst one, leave the other the same. So if you need to go back in and do it, you have a consistent color. So
how long should I wait?
So here's the beauty of what I was talking about. So we're gonna, through the power of magic, I bought like a UV light bulb and I have a few of these. So when I'm working on boards, and because this is sun triggered, what I can do that helps, I guess, prevent the fish eyes, but also gets us working more efficiently, I can actually just kick this, turn the UV light on, just let it sit there. And in about 5 minutes, the top to probably the middle section of this is solid. And if I wanted to, in about 20 minutes, I can start sanding it and get going. So that's why I use this, because while that's happening, I can start working on another board.
Then what's the difference between now UV light here and the indoors, and if I take this board outside?
Oh, same thing.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just we're inside, and I figure it's a controlled environment to film. But even if I were to lift this now, you should be able to touch the top of it just a little bit.
Oh, I can already see the.
Yep.
It's a little.
And it shouldn't be. See that?
Wow. Spray.
So if you touch it, it's like already kind of tacky.
Tacky.
Right?
Yeah.
So this means that we can finish this board if we do it right with the light and everything in a short space of time. So because of this
time,
in the shop, I use this method a lot, which allows me. It's not any weaker. It doesn't. It's just more efficient use of time.
And then what happened is you put the UV light on, and then you see the little fisheye or something like that.
Well,
you will sand it. I think you kind of.
Yeah, so it's tough because you won't probably see the fisheye now because the UV light will bake everything in. When you sand it, you might see a fisheye, and that's where we go back to. If you had a second one of these that we didn't kick off with the catalyst, we can just go back in. You spread it over the top, let it fill in the fisheye, let it harden, sand it. So you can go back and fix it.
So you need 2 cups, preferably. Right? Preferably one with the catalyst and then without. So you can always.
If you have color. If you don't have color, it's easy to make a white mixture. It's more about the color. Because if this were white, we can do that same mixture. We can do that same mixture.
Have to do like a whole pink board like on the bottom.
We can do that same mixture in white, and that's like a couple of seconds. But when you have a color and you want to keep it consistent, it's good to do 2 pieces. This is pretty much it. So we can wait, and if we let this light sit here, it'll actually penetrate through, and that along with the catalyst, and look, it's already kicked. Because we use a lot of catalyst. It's already it's hard. Right? So what this means to me is that if we let this sit, that means that the bottom of this is already starting to harden as well. So if you let this sit for another couple of minutes, we'll be sanding this board shortly. We already just sanded it. So this is just seeing what it looks like now, if there's any more fisheyes. And as you can see, they're gone. Right? They're still scraped, but that's okay.
Yeah.
So now we're gonna get ready to cloth, and I'll let you do that process.
There are different type of cloth. I mean, you say this is 14?
No, this is just a 4-ounce cloth. So,
4 ounce.
Yeah, so we're gonna do just 2 4-ounce, which will make it an 8-ounce. Sometimes I use like a 6-ounce cloth, but this is just most of the repair kits. I'm trying to keep it consistent with what you'll buy if you buy like that kit we showed before. So it's just gonna be a 4-ounce. Will probably come in that kit.
So the bigger the number, the thicker.
The thicker, right. Mm-hmm. So basically, when you have this kind of ding, what you want to do is you should use ideally 2 pieces. Only because when you're sanding, if you use just one, sometimes you could sand through the one and then it defeats the purpose, right? So we want to make it kind of the size of the ding. Mm-hmm. Small size, so we're gonna go here close. And then the other one you want it to be is a little bit bigger than this, so encompass here. And that just adds the strength, right? Because this is a crack in the board, so it kind of compromises. All of this is like a weave that kind of interlocks the whole thing, and we just broke that weave. So we're just gonna put the repair back on to make that weave again.
Rebuild it.
Yes, exactly. So I'm just gonna cut a piece out that's a little bit bigger than this. Let's see, I'll start at this. Let's go like here. Put this away, and let's see, we just get it like a little bit bigger. It doesn't have to be so crazy. I like to work in circles just because I think it's easier to stand, so I don't do squares so much. Because part of what makes it work too is that you can fade. So if we think that's kind of how we're gonna be, that's gonna be our patch. Get it?
Yeah.
So now where the ding is has the most cloth, and this is just so I can fade it out so it doesn't look like a sharp line. Okay. One of them is laminating resin, which is what we use when we did the fill. And then sanding resin. The reason why we need to use both, because like I mentioned before, the laminating resin is tacky. So when you go to sand it, especially in this type of process, it gums up your sandpaper. It's hard to sand, but it's tacky for a reason. It's tacky because it accepts the sanding resin, which has a wax in it, and it gets harder, so that it's easier to sand.
So you mix them up?
No, you just do them in two separate. So that's why we have 2 cups. So I always write like lamb on my container, because the problem is if you use the wrong one when you go to sand it, it's really frustrating because this just gets so sticky. Trying to sand it, it's annoying. So we're just gonna use a little bit because it's a small ding.
So lamb goes first.
Lamb goes first. Yep. Yep, it's good. Yep. A brush, and just put a little bit on the ding, and cover the whole thing. And it's okay to cover past the ding. a little bit.
That.
Yep. Go past it a little bit. Yep. There we go. So now your small piece, cover it. So put that away. Yep. And cover it with the small piece. Yep. That's it. There we go. There. Yep. Touch and do that.
Don't be afraid.
No. Don't be afraid. And then fade it. So basically, you want to make sure it's saturated. So all I'm doing now is making sure that I'm saturating everything. Right? There you go.
Yeah, you can't even see the cloth anymore.
Yep. And now put your big piece on. Same thing. Yep. Just go over there. Yep. And it's like touch it a little bit. Yep. It's fine. Yeah. So it's just the bottom. There. It's fine. And then we're gonna do. So now you see why we did the sanding bigger, because this liquid needs to fall into a groove that keeps the sanding. Mm-hmm. Right. So now we're just gonna fade this away, and you just need to saturate everything. Right. Okay, so once we have it saturated, where there's no white pieces, hold that. We're actually gonna scrape it and take it off. So we have a squeegee, and what we wanna do is we wanna squeegee it flat, right? So I'm just gonna do this, pull that back. What this does is exposes the waffles in the cloth. See that? All right? So I'm just taking all the excess out. See how that exposes the waffles? It's kind of hard to tell when you look at it. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. So the reason that we're doing that is because we need pockets for the sanding resin to hold. So what we're gonna do, because it's UV, you're gonna grab the
lamp.
Or I'm closer. I'll grab it. We're gonna kick it, right? Again, in a normal process, you would have to put the catalyst in, do that, wait for it to get kind of hard. So I'm in a rush and we're trying to do this quick, so we're doing this. So I'm just gonna kick this for a second. This will activate this UV and it'll make it tacky. You'll see it'll be dry, but it will be like sticky to the touch. And you want that, and I'll show you why in a second. So
just for a few seconds.
Yeah. So now touch it. See how it's just kind of tacky, right? So we do that now.
But normally you would have to use catalyst. And
if you use catalyst, you would have to catalyze it, do this, and then wait for 45 minutes. Because the catalyst will kick and it'll do its whole thing, which again is fine if you have the time. If you're on a surf trip and the waves are firing and you're trying to go, if you can use UV, I highly recommend it.
Any disadvantages? Advantages?
No, I mean, if you're being really nitpicky, like very specific, there's a disadvantage, I guess, in using UV because it cures so quickly that if you do a big section, it's almost like it can not adhere properly. I haven't found that, because I do use the catalyst when I use a bigger ding, like how this one was, right? So now that we have that, we're gonna use, let's get our cup, grab the sanding one. I'll write sanding on this. S-A-N-D. Okay, cool. All right, and then, shake that one up. This one's really important because this has a surfacing wax, which makes it kind of smooth once it starts to catalyze. And you want that because that'll help us sand it too. So pour this a tad bit here. A little bit more. Yeah, that's good. Then close that up. All right. Now this one, we have a new brush. You can be more liberal with this. Yeah. So we can't mix them.
You can't mix them.
No. So this is you can be more liberal. So what you're trying to do with this resin is fill in all the waffles and all the space that had the other type of resin. So we're just literally gonna go on and just have more. All right? So you see how that, it's a different almost like look than the other one. There we go. Yep.
Good.
That's it. Now this, it self-settles, so it's hard to tell, but if you look at it kind of like an angle, you'll see it'll start to like gloss off a little bit. But you let this, whenever you use sanding resin, to fix a ding, let it sit for a little while before, if it's a UV, before you put it in the sun. If you catalyst, it'll just do it on its own. I'm just gonna now hit it with the UV light and leave it.
How long?
It'll be hard in like a couple minutes.
Couple minutes?
Yeah, if it were super sun outside, we would put it outside and it'll be done. Once this is done, after this, it's just sanding, and you're good to go. And there are different versions of this. So it's easier to do it with a machine because now you're doing the sanding to kind of get it to finish, meaning like it's not just sanding to knock down the stuff, it's sanding to smooth it out. So you're going to use different levels of sandpaper. You may use a water sand. We're going to start off probably with this, like maybe an 80 just to get the edges, and then we're going to go to like maybe 100 or 120. That's what I do. If all you have is an 80 and like a 120, you're fine. You can get this good to go. Technically, if you were to just take this off and go surf, you're good, right? But what we're going to do is we're going to make it look good. So we're going to go down in the grids of the sandpaper or go up.
From 80.
From 80 and just go up. We'll get to 400. We'll do a water sand, and that's going to make it really smooth. You know, so we can do that. But in the reality of it is that if you wanted to surf this, you can quick sand it and go surf, and you're good. Because right now, once this process is done, this board is sealed and good to go. Right? We're just gonna make it pretty because we're doing a proper repair.
Yeah, and the board is pretty too. So
yeah.
let this board
So
enjoy itself.
See, it's a little tacky.
Tacky, yeah. So when the final process of repairing this board, all we need is just to sand it by using different sandpapers, and Nigel is gonna show us which paper we should start with. Okay, so we'll start with an 80, which I believe is this one. And when you're doing this, the goal of it really is, or at least when I'm doing it, because different people have different ways, I don't focus so much on the middle of the ding. I focus on the edges more, and then I work my way in. Reason is, when most people do a good ding repair, they want to run their hand across it and feel like, oh, I can't feel anything. And that's the illusion that like the ding was done really well. So basically what I do is I start from the corner. And again, I would normally use the machine, but I do it to where I'm just trying to fade the edges here. Right, and then I rub my hand, and if it feels good, the mill will go. So I'm not worried about these kind of lines that are showing up because I'm going to use thinner and thinner sandpaper, and these lines will disappear the more I go down in sandpaper. So we'll do a little bit of time lapse. I'm actually gonna do it with this 80, and the goal is this little ridge that's here, you're trying to get rid of this thing to make it look consistent, and also you want it to feel kind of smooth. The trouble that people get into when they get this stage is that they over sand it and they chew through the fiberglass, and then they end up like, it's called a burn through, then you burn through and you're back at the ding, which is like really annoying. Yeah.
So we're gonna try to avoid that, right?
So if you make a mistake and get through that, you have to use the resin again, right? The sand
Exactly. So we'll do this, and the goal is we're trying to accomplish a fade of this little lip here, so it feels like gradually and smooth here. See, we faded the big part of it, all that's gone, right? So if you rub your hand over it, pretty smooth.
Yeah.
I know you see this is the edge of the fiberglass and stuff like that. Oh, what's that? You'll see how this will start to go away. So now that we did it with 80, we took off the big thing, it's pretty smooth. That was an 80. This is gonna be a 120. Right, so this is a thinner grit of sandpaper. And all you're gonna do, I would fold it. So again, small circles. I'm not really pushing down so much. I'm more like just trying to get rid of those, remember all the lines? And make sure that the edges are faded. So I'm literally a little bit of pressure, not too much. So now, so that's good. Let's go 220. Okay. Again, because we're not really taking anything down, because it already feels like smooth, right?
Just polishing.
We're just bringing it down, yeah. So now try that again. That one will give you even more of a polish, see that? See how that's kind of,
yeah.
So we'll take care of this after this batch. So again, don't focus so much in the middle, because when you start to see these waffles, it means you're sanding through the layers. So that's why we did the two. So really just kind of focus on the smoothness. Like, see these lines here? I'm just gonna try and get rid of those.
Oh, those.
With these ones. More because this is a thinner one. These will be gone in a second. But see, like now they're not there as much. So now we do this. Hold this. I'll be right back. Sorry, I keep going back and forth. Wipe it with this. Just wipe the whole thing. And then, but what we're gonna do, you can usually just wipe it down with a cloth or whatever. Because we're gonna try and do it properly, we're gonna just spray a little bit of acetone.
Acetone.
Right? So that just, because I want to get rid of anything waxy or anything that's on there, because we're gonna put a coat on that will fill in those little waffles, right? So acetone just kind of takes everything out. There's no oily residue. That's it. So now we're gonna bring the board back inside. And again, if you want to surf this, you're watertight, you're good. You can go right now.
Done.
You're 100% done. We're just making it pretty right now. Yep. So anyone who's watching this, if it gets to here, you've already done like a great job, go surf the board. But because we want to, you know, get her looking pretty, we're gonna do.
But it's not A+ yet. It's not A+.
We're going A+, exactly.
We're going A+.
So we're gonna just put another sanding resin or hot coat on this, very thin this time, to fill in all these little waffle marks here. Just so it looks more like this and less like I just fixed the ding. Because right now you see this the white stuff here from the cloth, so we're gonna fill all of it in. So bring the board back inside and we'll go from there. So we're using sanding resin and we're just basically gonna do a super thin coat on this. There's a gloss resin you could use with other things. I find this works perfectly fine because if you already have this, right? So all we're gonna do is we're gonna go super thin just on here and you'll see why. It's like that. Very thin layer. Right? It's okay to go in different directions because like I said, this stuff self-settles. Right? But then just let it sit.
Okay.
With the light, I'm just gonna kick it for 10 seconds really quickly, and that should activate so the wax part kind of start to come up to the surface. So go 2, 1, and then I'll move it away. When it's such a thin layer now, we can use a much higher, right? So I'll probably use like a 400 or a 320 or something, just to smooth it out.
So guys, this board is already done. You can actually take it and go surf, but what we decided to do is change the color a little bit, go a little bit crazy. So we're gonna use the purple marker like this one, write something on it and glass it again, and we'll see what we come with. What kind of marker is that?
Posca, yeah.
So it's a Posca marker. I mean, I could leave the same as it is. I could leave as it is.
But why not?
We want to just change the color. Yeah. So we're going to put this logo.
Right there?
My logo here.
So we're just doing it because why not, right? Like, it's prepared. It's technically watertight. You know, he can surf it now. But we're just going to make it pretty. We're going to have some fun with it. Why not? And then we're going to seal it in when it's all done, and you'll be good to go. So let's just make the circle first. I guess, I don't know. It might be a little bit big, but let's see.
2 inches.
Yeah, do it here. Okay. Let's just get a quick one here, see if I can do it without. I'm like nervous when because I don't want it to be imperfect. But let's just go here. Get that off, right? So that's our circle. Okay, and then all we have to do, Posca, you literally just kind of come in and fill it in. And what's cool with the Posca markers is that when you color them, they actually come out pretty solid. I'm working in kind of like the straight lines is because I find that with the Posca markers, it when you go back and forth, sometimes it leaves it like these little kind of like lines, which when you glass it actually is kind of cool. Now it's like, where was your ding? Right?
Oh wow, that's so sick.
So we hide it, and then maybe we'll just do a little signature thing.
It's like some planet.
Yep, so we have to let it dry. That's kind of dope with the purple like that. I like it. So there it is. Dry to the touch. You're good. Hopefully. If I cover this with the regular laminate, let's go for it. Because this will hold it better, and I like how rich it makes it once I do this. Like you'll see, like once I add this color, it's just gonna make it so rich. Look at that. See that? We're just gonna kick it for a little bit.
Sick, man. Thank you so much. You just
we took your ding repair to another level.
Alright,
so just gonna get rid of the little frayed edges here, just like this.
Oh, that's called water sanding?
Yeah. So this is like polishing it. It's gonna make it look like, it should make all of your little things disappear. Shouldn't see where it started or where it ended.
I don't see it.
Invisible. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching. If you like this episode, please subscribe, hit the like button and notification bell to not miss next episode. Huge shout out to Nigel for helping me to repair this board. We're getting next swell this week. So I'm so stoked to try to surf this board again. It's one of my favorites. And also, if you have any questions or suggestions, please leave them in the comment section down below. Also, feel free to add me on Instagram. I'm there, Skipper Surf Review. Thank you again for your support, and until next time, goodbye.